I've started to denounce Anita more when I watched Mr. Repsian showed a video of her basically saying that she doesn't play video games. Yet, throughout her entire series, she claims to be a gamer. It would have been fine. It would have been fine if she had said, I'm not a gamer. I just think that games are really good educational tools, that they're really good for developing certain skills, and I think that one of the reasons why girls are maybe turned off by gaming and don't play games as much is because of X, Y, and Z. You could disagree with her about X, Y, and Z, but that's not something that means she's a bad person in any way. You just have a disagreement there. But she lied about her credentials. She lied in order to gain credibility in a movement to try to influence people who are actually gamers. That's so deceptive and so manipulative. And didn't she know that that would be found out? Putting aside from the fact that it's morally wrong to lie in order to boost your credentials, to basically give credit to your ideas and your analysis, putting the morality aside, didn't you know that you would get caught? How could you think that you could get away with that when there's footage out there of you clearly saying to a group of women that you don't play video games? And if you did know that there was footage out there, and if you do genuinely care about women, and it's not just about, oh, I'm looking out for myself, how could you do that to us? How could you play into that stereotype of women being liars and deceivers, manipulating society for their advantage, for personal gain? Didn't you know that that would undermine everything that you were working for, Anita? How selfish of you. It was very selfish of you. I didn't like your authoritarian ways anyway, to add that on top. To completely undermine any legitimate criticism of games. Any legitimate criticism that could have been made, you completely undermined. See, even right now, as I'm making a possible criticism of game that I think there should be more female characters, even as I say that, with your manipulative and deceptive ways and authoritarian ways, you made it very difficult to actually make a valid criticism without this coming into play, without your actions, your behavior factoring into the audience's perception of what I am saying. And I would like to credit Mr. Repsian for showing me that video. My attitude after that was, I'm done with this person. This person is proven herself to be a liar, and once you do that, you're not a credible source. Feminists keep demanding respect. They keep demanding respect without actually doing anything to warrant respect. I don't want to just be respected. I want to be able to do something that's worth respecting, and I think that's one of the major failures of feminism today. That it's giving people, not just women, but this is where intersectional feminism comes into play. It's giving people a really entitled attitude that respect is not something that you have to earn. It's something that you deserve. You deserve it and you demand it, and that's not how it works. As this whole awakening was happening, and when I woke up from this daze, I was slowly waking up. One of the things that I predicted, because I am a feminist, I'm still a feminist, and I'm still going to call myself a feminist, even after the really bad negative effects that intersectional feminism has had on the world, which I still haven't explained to my maybe feminist audience that why it's bad, and I will get into that. So please stick with me and bear in mind that I will be talking about that. One of the things that I don't want this waking up to be is to become a thing where it's about a hatred of women, not a hatred of women, but a very anti-feminist thing where we're only going to blame feminists. But you know what? In a certain way, I think we can really put a lot of blame on intersectional feminism. It's not even really feminism. Now, some people say that I'm rationalizing away, I'm making excuses for feminism, but it's really not the definition of feminism. I am a classical feminist, just like how I'm a classical liberal, and how liberal has been, what it means to be a liberal has been taken away by truly bad actors who are then influencing people who just are sort of ignorant of actually what it means to be a liberal. Same can be said for feminism. And I think there is a place for feminism in this world. I think definitely in the Middle East. I think even in our society, just to support the women in the Middle East, I think there's a place for that. Now, Getting back to I'm sort of bouncing all around. Getting back to some of the little issues social issues, and why we can't exactly work towards those within our own society. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do any pro-women stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you can't pass laws, you can't be authoritarian about it, you can't have these protest movements, you can't be so angry. It plays into negative stereotypes, and you're pushing people so far where they can't go. They can't go, and you're actually going to end up pushing them away. And you might actually end up pushing some people into movements they don't want to be in. You want equality for women, but you're not willing to be pragmatic about it. You want equality for women, but you only care about women who are in this country. You seem to not care very much for the women who live in these Middle Eastern societies, and that's something very disappointing to me, because I've always cared about these women. I think we all have to care about these women. These women are incredibly oppressed. Incredibly so. We have to be unselfish enough to advocate for them and to put some of our pettiness aside. Why is intersectional feminism bad? It is trying to find out, and this goes to that privilege checker that you'll be seeing in the next video, basically trying to determine who is the most oppressed group and who has the most right to have a platform in this movement because they've been the most disenfranchised by the rest of society. Why is this dangerous? Well, you are giving people credibility platforms based on things that they cannot control. Now, as a white Jewish woman, I am very privileged. I am the most privileged. I'll include a link of that privilege checker below. Make everything the same, just change the Jewish selection. You'll see. I could be a millionaire Middle Eastern man living in Saudi Arabia. Not privileged. Oh, because he's Muslim. Great. So it doesn't even take into account geography. It only says, oh, if you live in this region, that's -+1, without actually taking into account the different intersections of identity. Stupid privilege checker. It's bad because it teaches women to no longer stand up for women. It teaches us to only stand up for certain types of women. And even then, it's teaching us feminists to sometimes disregard female grievances and to look more closely at different grievances that aren't exactly related to gender. This has nothing to do with feminism. It's a way to divide us. It's a way to silence people based on their identities because they don't have the right identity. Now, I don't believe in reverse racism. I believe racism exists. It doesn't exist for just one race. Racism is racism, and what it is discrimination based on race. If you discriminate against someone or treat them differently because of the race that they are, that is racism, by definition. By the way, it's always been viewed. We have to accept any race can be racist against any race. Now, are there historical patterns within this country? Is there a history of slavery that we must acknowledge? Of course. But that doesn't mean that we say, fuck white people. If you actually look at what Martin Luther King taught, he didn't want this. He didn't want this, oh, white people must acknowledge their privilege at all times before they are allowed to even speak. He warned against this. He wanted black people to be elevated to the point where white people were, for them to be equal. He didn't want this thing where white people have to constantly apologize for something that they can't control. He wanted people to be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. But now suddenly people are trying to tell you that that's racist. That it's racist to want people to be judged by who they are and not what they are. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I'm going to quote Martin Luther King, and I'm going to push for what he actually wanted. And I don't see why feminism has taken it upon itself to push for this sort of racism, where we only look at people's identities and not what they have to say, not their merits, where we teach that respect should be doled out based on how someone is oppressed in society by the greater society, how the different intersections of what makes them white, black, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, boy, girl, gender identity, sexual preference. They look at that and they use that to determine who deserves respect. It has nothing to do with equality. It has nothing to do with what MLK wanted. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with feminism. It is disgraceful. Feminists who are watching this, I challenge you. I challenge you to be better human beings, to realize it's okay to disagree with the broader feminist movement. It's okay. It's okay to be a minority. It's okay to be a minority in opinion, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're wrong, and you don't have to go with the crowd. It's okay to speak out. It's okay to ask questions. It doesn't make you racist. It doesn't make you anti-feminist. And feminists, you have to do this. Because if you don't, all those gains that you've worked for, all those opinions that are actually valid, that the feminist movement still currently holds, you're going to lose credibility for those opinions. Because there are going to be counter movements that aren't for those opinions. But because we're going to be forced to basically choose a side, people aren't going to be with you because you're pushing for something very dangerous. You're pushing for a different kind of discrimination that is really bad. That so many people who have fought to make this country better would not advocate for. And good people are going to have to be against some of your philosophies for the sake of defending something so integral to our society. For the sake of defending freedom. Now, that's not a conservative thought. That's a liberal thought. That's what it means to be a liberal. Liberty, freedom, classical liberalism. Be willing and ready to challenge your preconceived notions, your ideas. Always be willing to be challenged. Always be willing to listen. And ask yourselves, do I like the stereotypes that some of these people who are anti-feminist are putting out there? Do I like those stereotypes? And then ask yourself, am I actually that stereotype? And if I am, do I like that? And ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? And ask yourself, what is the end goal? What am I reaching for? What are we fighting for? Who are we fighting for? Be willing to ask those questions. Don't just go along with something because it sounds pretty or it sounds like it falls in line with the rest of the people in your movement think. Think for yourself. Not everyone's going to agree in this world. And just because someone disagrees with you, it doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them racist. It doesn't make them sexist. We have to be more willing to recognize the good in people. This is so basic. This is so basic. This is kindergarten stuff. We have to apply this. It's time to apply those basic values that we have, that we're taught as children, the golden rule, and apply it. Really apply it. There's nothing wrong with entertaining different thoughts or ideas. In fact, I entertain a lot of different ideas that are contradictory. And I argue them, and I debate with myself, and I watch other people, and that's good, that's healthy, that's how you develop and grow as a human being. If we as women want respect, and if you as feminists want respect, be a person with integrity. Be a person who is worthy of respect. I don't know if I'm there yet. I'm going to keep trying. I'm always going to be willing to challenge myself. We have to be willing to do that. Because the cost for not being willing to do that, you're going to lose. You're going to lose something. And just because someone is not a feminist, it doesn't make them anti-women, and it doesn't make them anti-equality. Sometimes it can actually mean the opposite. Because what we're seeing right now from the feminist movement, it isn't good. It isn't good. Please, do better.